The hospital rooms smelled like antiseptic and fear. My youngest daughter lay in the bed, tubes running from her small arm to machines that beeped steadily. 10 days we'd been here since the emergency appendicitis surgery that had complications. Infection had set in on day 3, turning what should have been a simple procedure into an extended stay. My phone buzzed on the windowsill. A message from an unknown number. "Hi, I bought Max from your sister a few days ago. Just wanted to get his vet records for his checkup next week." My hands went completely numb. The phone nearly slipped from my fingers onto the tile floor. Max wasn't just our dog. He was my children's emotional support animal, trained specifically for my oldest daughter's anxiety. He'd been with us since he was a puppy, sleeping between their beds every night. I read the message 3 more times, hoping the words would rearrange themselves into something that made sense. They didn't. I called my sister immediately. The phone rang 6 times before going to voicemail. I called again and again. On the 4th attempt, she finally answered. "What?" My sister's voice carried that familiar edge of irritation, like I'd interrupted something important. My throat felt tight, words struggling to form properly. "Someone just messaged me saying they bought Max from you. What's going on?" Silence stretched for 3 long seconds. When she spoke again, her tone was unnaturally calm. "Oh yeah, I rehomed him last Thursday. You weren't around to take care of him, and it seemed like the best solution for everyone." Last Thursday. 5 days ago. While Emma was fighting infection and I was sleeping in a chair beside her hospital bed. "You rehomed our family dog? Without asking me?" She sighed like I was being difficult. "You've been at the hospital for over a week. The dog needed attention. I found him a good home. You should be thanking me." My voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "Did someone pay you for him?" Another pause. Then, almost defensively, $1,800. But that's not why I did it. The number hit me like a slap. $1,800, while my family was in crisis. I managed to keep myself together through the rest of that phone call and the hours that followed. Managed to smile when the doctor came by with updates about Emma's improving blood work. Managed to hold my composure when my husband arrived after his shift. He'd been working double shifts to cover the medical bills, sleeping at home to stay with our oldest daughter, Claire, between work and hospital visits. But when Claire arrived with him that evening, everything shattered. She'd been asking to visit her sister for days, and the doctor had finally approved short visits now that Emma was stable. Claire walked into the room carefully, looking around at all the medical equipment. Then her eyes found mine. "Mom, I brought Max's favorite toy. Can I leave it here so Emma remembers him?" The doctor said maybe he can visit tomorrow. The hospital allowed therapy dogs for patients once they were stable enough. I'd mentioned it yesterday as something to look forward to. The words caught in my throat like broken glass. My expression must have betrayed me because Claire's face changed instantly. Fear replaced hope. "Mom? Where's Max?" I tried to find gentle words, but there weren't any. Aunt Beth found him a new home while we were here. Claire's face crumpled. Tears came immediately, fast and silent. But she promised. The night you left for the hospital, she promised she wouldn't do anything without asking you first. My sister started texting instead of calling after that conversation. Long paragraphs justifying her decision, each one making things worse. The messages came in throughout Tuesday evening and all day Wednesday. "Max was too much responsibility with you gone for so long. Claire was at school all day. I had work. It wasn't fair to leave him alone for 10+ hours. Then came the line that made my blood boil. Besides, you owe me for dropping everything to help for almost 2 weeks. The kids will get over it. Dogs die eventually anyway." I read that message 5 times, each reading stoking the anger higher. My sister had volunteered to stay at our house with Claire. Had insisted, actually, saying family should help family during emergencies. And now she was framing it like I owed her something. Like selling my children's therapy dog was somehow reasonable payment for babysitting. I started typing a response, then deleted it. Started again, deleted again. Finally, I just wrote, "We need to talk about this in person when Emma's discharged." The 3 dots appeared, showing she was typing. Then they disappeared. A moment later, a new message. "I don't think that's productive right now. Give it time." Then nothing. When I tried calling Wednesday evening, it went straight to voicemail. I realized with cold certainty that she'd blocked my number. The hospital bathroom became my refuge when I needed to fall apart without my daughter seeing. Wednesday night, after Claire left crying, I locked myself in a stall and let the anger finally surface. Hot tears mixed with rage that made my hands shake. This wasn't about the dog, not really. This was about control. About my sister making a permanent decision regarding my family without permission. About her selling something that wasn't hers to sell while I was dealing with a medical emergency. My phone buzzed. A text from the unknown number, the buyer. "I'm so sorry to bother you at the hospital. Your sister told me you'd moved overseas for work and couldn't take Max with you. I'm starting to think that wasn't true. Can we talk?" I stared at that message. Moved overseas. My sister had lied to the buyer about why Max was available. I stepped out of the stall and splashed cold water on my face. My reflection looked exhausted. 10 days of hospital stress written in dark circles and unwashed hair. I called the number with shaking hands. A woman answered on the second ring. "Hello?" Her voice sounded young, worried. "This is Claire and Emma's mom. About Max." She exhaled hard. "Oh, thank God. I've been sick about this since I sent that message. Something felt wrong. Your sister's story kept changing." The woman's name was Amanda. She spoke quickly, words tumbling over each other in obvious distress. "I bought Max last Thursday evening. Your sister posted him on a rehoming site Wednesday morning, said the family was moving internationally for work and couldn't take him. She had pictures of Max in your house, knew all about his training, seemed completely legitimate." The timeline clicked into place. My sister had posted Max for sale on Wednesday, had completed the sale by Thursday evening. "What made you suspicious?" I asked. Amanda paused. "Max, he's been crying at night since I brought him home Thursday. Just sits by the door and whines like he's waiting for someone. Sunday afternoon, a little girl walked past my house with blonde hair and braids, and Max went crazy trying to get to her. Started barking and pulling at his leash so hard I could barely hold him. That's not a dog adjusting to a new home. That's a dog missing his family." My throat felt tight. Claire always wore her hair in braids. "Can I ask what pictures she showed you?" Amanda's voice dropped. "Photos of Max with 2 little girls. In a bedroom with 2 beds and butterfly decorations. Your sister said they were her daughters, that she was handling the rehoming because you were too emotional about the international move to deal with it." The lies kept getting worse. My sister had used photos of my children to sell their dog, pretending they were her own kids. The screenshots arrived within minutes. I sat in the hospital bathroom stall, scrolling through the evidence with growing horror. My sister had posted Max on 3 different rehoming sites, all on Wednesday morning of last week. One said the family was moving overseas. Another said the owner had developed severe allergies suddenly. The third said the family was downsizing and couldn't keep a large dog. But all 3 posts used the same photos of Max with my daughters, taken in their bedroom. The timestamps showed she'd posted them all within an hour of each other, clearly trying to find a buyer quickly. In the direct messages with Amanda, my sister had been even more specific. The previous owner essentially abandoned him when circumstances changed suddenly. "I'm family, handling the rehoming to ensure he doesn't end up in a shelter. Can you pick him up Thursday evening?" Thursday evening. My sister had wanted Max gone less than 48 hours after posting him. Amanda had responded, "Thursday works, I can bring cash." The sale had happened at 6:30 Thursday evening, according to the message timestamps. My sister had handed over my children's dog for $1,800 in cash, while I was reading bedtime stories to Emma in a hospital room 15 miles away. I screenshot everything and sent it to my own email, creating a backup. Then I called Amanda back. "I need to be clear about something. My sister had no legal right to sell Max. He's microchipped and registered to me. She was staying at my house to watch my 9-year-old daughter while we were at the hospital. She stole him and sold him." Amanda was quiet for a long moment after I explained. When she spoke again, her voice was careful. "I was afraid of that. I work in animal rescue on weekends." The way she phrased things, especially saying the owner abandoned him, that's specific legal language. It's what people say when they're trying to establish they have a right to rehome an animal that isn't actually theirs. She paused. I should have questioned the price too. $1,800 is low for a trained emotional support golden retriever. They usually go for $3,000 or more. But your sister said you were desperate to place him quickly before the international move, so the lower price made sense in that context. Everything my sister had done was calculated. The false story, the carefully chosen legal language, even the pricing strategy. What do you want to do? Amanda asked. I closed my eyes, thinking about Claire's face when she learned Max was gone, about Emma asking when he could visit. I want him back, I said firmly, but I don't know how to do this without putting you in a bad position. Amanda's response surprised me. You're not putting me in a bad position. Your sister did that when she lied to me. I bought stolen property, even though I didn't know it. That means the sale isn't actually valid. She sounded like she'd been researching this. I think we should meet in person. I want to give Max back to his real family. But you need to do something first to protect yourself legally. Amanda explained carefully what I needed to do. Max's microchip was registered to me, which was good. But I needed to file a report about the theft with animal control before we arranged the return. Otherwise, my sister could potentially claim I'd given verbal permission or that it was a family dispute rather than actual theft. Do it tomorrow if you can, Amanda urged. Document everything while the timeline is clear. The fact that you were at the hospital during the sale matters legally. I thanked her and hung up, then spent the next hour composing an email to County Animal Control. Attached all the screenshots from Amanda. Included Emma's hospital admission records showing we'd been there since day one. Sent it at 11:43 Wednesday night. Then I did something I'd been avoiding. I called my parents. It was late, almost midnight, but I needed to know if they'd been part of this. My father answered on the third ring, voice foggy with sleep. Hello? Dad, it's me. Did you know Beth sold Max? A pause. Then I heard him moving, probably leaving the bedroom so he wouldn't wake my mother. What? When? His confusion sounded genuine. Last Thursday, she sold him to a stranger for $1,800 while I was at the hospital with Emma. My father was quiet for several seconds. That can't be right. Beth told us last week that Max was doing fine, that Claire was handling everything well. My father's confusion slowly shifted to concern as I explained everything. The rehoming posts my sister had made Wednesday morning, 9 days into our hospital stay. The lies she'd told Amanda about us moving overseas. The $1,800 in cash she'd collected Thursday evening. The fact that she'd done it all without asking permission, without even telling me until a stranger contacted me days later. Let me call her right now, my father said, anger creeping into his voice. No, wait. I stopped him. I need to ask you something first. Did Beth tell you anything about being overwhelmed? About Max being too much to handle? My father hesitated. She called your mother last Tuesday, said she was managing but that it was a lot. Your mother offered to come help, but Beth said she had it under control. Last Tuesday. That was 8 days into the hospital stay that my sister Max for sale. Did she ask you for money? Another pause. She mentioned her car insurance was due. Your mother sent her $500. The pieces were clicking together in a way I didn't like. My sister had called my parents asking for money on Tuesday. When that wasn't enough, she'd sold Max on Wednesday. Dad, I think Beth is in financial trouble. Bad trouble. I heard him sigh heavily. I'm going to call her now. This is unacceptable. He hung up before I could respond. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Your father just spoke with Beth. She admitted selling Max. Said she had your permission. We need to talk tomorrow. Thursday morning brought a video message from Claire. My husband had brought her to the hospital early, before school, so she could see Emma. While the girls played together in Emma's room, Claire had asked to borrow his phone. She spent 20 minutes in the hallway, and when she came back, she showed me what she'd recorded. In the video, Claire sat against the hospital wall, face serious. My name is Claire, and Max is my dog. He's not just a pet. He's trained to help me when I have panic attacks. He knows when I'm getting scared and he comes to sit with me. When my chest gets tight and I can't breathe right, Max puts his head on my lap and it helps me remember to breathe slow." Her voice stayed mostly steady, but tears ran down her face. "We didn't abandon Max. My little sister got really sick and had to have surgery. Then she got an infection and we had to stay at the hospital for a long time. My aunt said she'd take care of him. We trusted her. I don't understand why she gave him away. But if the person who has him now sees this, I want them to know we love him. We didn't want this to happen. We want him to come home." She wasn't begging, wasn't manipulative, just telling the truth about what Max meant to her. "Can you send this to the lady?" Claire asked quietly. I hugged her tight. "Yes, baby, I'll send it right now." I forwarded the video to Amanda with a simple message. "From Max's girl." Amanda replied within 10 minutes. "I'm crying. When is your daughter being discharged? We need to fix this immediately." Emma was finally discharged Friday morning, 12 days after the emergency surgery. The infection had cleared, her incision was healing properly, and the doctor cleared her to go home with careful instructions about wound care and activity restrictions. Amanda had suggested meeting that afternoon in a park near her house, somewhere public but appropriate for a dog. "I live about 40 minutes from the hospital," she'd texted. "There's a park with a big field. Does 2 o'clock work?" My husband drove while I sat in back between both girls. Claire hadn't spoken much all morning, oscillating between hope and fear of being disappointed again. Emma kept asking if Max would remember her after almost a week away. "He'll remember," I assured her, praying I was right. We arrived at the park at 1:55, parked near the playground and waited. At exactly 2 o'clock, Amanda's car pulled into the lot. Through her windshield, I could see Max in the passenger seat, his golden face pressed against the window. The moment my husband opened our car door, Max started barking, not aggressive barking. Desperate, joyful recognition. Amanda got out and opened her passenger door. Max lunged out, pulling the leash taut, practically dragging Amanda across the grass toward us. Claire dropped to her knees and Max hit her like a furry freight train. His whole body wiggled with excitement, tail wagging so hard his back ends swung side to side. He licked her face frantically, whining and pressing against her like he was trying to climb inside her skin. Emma wrapped her arms around Max's neck despite her surgical tenderness, laughing for the first time in 12 days. My husband had his arm around my shoulders, his own eyes wet. Max kept checking each family member, running from person to person like he was counting us, making sure everyone was really there. He'd go to Claire, then race to Emma, then to me, then to my husband, unable to settle because he needed to touch all of us at once. Amanda stood beside me, openly crying as she watched the reunion. "I can't believe your sister said you abandoned him," she said quietly. "Look at them." After several minutes of chaos, Max finally calmed enough to sit, though he kept one paw firmly planted on Claire's leg like he was afraid she'd disappear if he let go. Amanda pulled out a folder from her car. "I need to explain something about the money. I paid your sister $1,800 in cash last Thursday evening. That money went to her, not to me. Legally, that's between you and her. I can't give you money and take the dog back because that could look like a separate transaction." I understood what she was saying. "But," Amanda continued, "I can return Max to his registered owner, because the sale was fraudulent. Your sister had no legal authority to sell him. The microchip is registered to you, and you never gave permission." She handed me the folder. Inside were printed copies of all the messages, the 3 different rehoming posts with their conflicting stories, and a document she'd typed up detailing the misrepresentation. "I called a lawyer friend yesterday after I saw your daughter's video. She said you need documentation showing the return is because of fraud, not because you're buying him back. That protects you if your sister tries to claim the sale was legitimate." Amanda had done all this preparation in less than 24 hours. "Why are you helping us this much?" I asked. She watched Max lean his full weight against Claire, who had both arms wrapped around him. "Because I work in animal rescue. I've seen families torn apart by people who steal pets. And because your daughter's video broke my heart, no child should have to beg to get their own dog back." She reached into her car and pulled out Max's leash, his food and water bowls, and a bag of the expensive dog food she'd bought. "Here's everything. I bought him a new collar because your sister didn't include his old one. but you can keep it or not. The new collar was navy blue with Max's name embroidered in yellow. It must have cost $40. I also made you something else. She handed me a binder. Inside was a timeline she'd created, documenting every interaction with my sister. Wednesday morning posts at 9:15, 9:32, and 9:51. Messages throughout Wednesday and Thursday. The exchange Thursday evening at 6:30, including the address where it happened, which was a grocery store parking lot 3 blocks from my house. If your sister tries to claim this was legitimate, you have proof of everything. The lies, the timeline, all of it. I stared at this stranger who'd spent hours helping my family. I don't know how to thank you. Amanda shook her head. Just love him. That's all the thanks I need. She knelt down and hugged Max one more time. You're going home, buddy. Back where you belong. Max licked her face once, then immediately returned to pressing against Claire. Monday morning, I drove to the County Animal Services office with all the documentation. The clerk who helped me was a woman in her 50s named Patricia, who listened to the whole story without interrupting. When I finished, she pulled up Max's microchip record on her computer. He's registered to you. Has been for 5 years according to this. She scrolled through the records. And I see you emailed us Wednesday night with the theft report and all the evidence. She printed several forms. We're going to flag his microchip with a theft alert. If anyone tries to scan him for any reason, it'll show. Theft reported, fraudulent sale, contact owner immediately before any action. She typed for several minutes, then had me sign updated registration papers. I'm also adding your husband as an alternate contact, but specifically noting that no other family members have authority over this animal. Your sister's name is going in the system as someone who attempted theft. Patricia looked at me seriously. What your sister did, selling property that doesn't belong to her, using false pretenses, that's theft. Given the dollar amount and the deception involved, it's a felony in this state. You could file a police report. I hadn't seriously considered involving the police. The thought made my stomach turn, not because my sister didn't deserve consequences, but because it felt like a line I couldn't uncross. Do I have to decide now? Patricia shook her head. No, but document everything now while it's fresh. If you decide later to pursue it, you'll need this paper trail. She handed me a packet. These are the updated registration papers, the county letter confirming ownership, and the theft report, and information about your legal options. I left with everything officially documented, then sat in my car for 10 minutes before doing what I'd been putting off. I sent my sister a message through my husband's phone. Max is back with his actual family. He's legally protected now. The county has a theft report on file with your name on it. Do not contact us about this again. My sister's response came within 3 minutes. My husband's phone started ringing immediately. She'd apparently figured out it was me using his phone and was calling back. When I answered, she was already shouting, "How dare you humiliate me like this? I did you a favor, and this is how you repay me." I waited for her to pause for breath. You sold my dog without permission while my daughter was in the hospital. She talked over me. I spent almost 2 weeks taking care of your household, dealing with your responsibilities, and you can't even appreciate it. You went behind my back, made me look like some kind of criminal, and now you're filing reports with the county? Her voice hit a pitch that was almost funny. You owe me. You owe me for the time and energy I spent. You owe me for the emotional labor of handling everything while you were too busy to parent your own kid at home. That last line cut through my patience. Too busy to parent? My 6-year-old was fighting a post-surgical infection. She wasn't listening, and now you're demanding I give back money that I earned? I found Max a home. I did all the work. That money is mine. I have expenses. I have bills. You have no idea what I'm dealing with. I let her rage exhaust itself. When silence finally came, I spoke calmly. You had no right to sell Max. Not legally, not morally, not in any version of reality where basic boundaries exist. She interrupted immediately. I'm taking you to court. I'll sue for the money. I'll sue for defamation for filing that theft report. I'll make sure everyone in the family knows how ungrateful and vindictive you are. I hung up. She called back immediately. I didn't answer. Over the next hour, she called 16 more times. I blocked her number on my husband's phone too. The next week passed in tense silence. My sister didn't follow through on her court threats, probably because any lawyer she consulted told her she had no case. Instead, radio silence, which should have felt like relief, but somehow felt more ominous, like the quiet before a storm. I used the quiet to document everything systematically, created a detailed timeline with dates and times for everything that had happened, organized all the screenshots from Amanda chronologically, got a letter from our veterinarian confirming Max's 5-year history with our family and his training certification as an emotional support animal. Then I did something I hadn't initially planned. I started looking into whether my sister had done this kind of thing before. Not to hurt her, but because her reaction had been so extreme, so entitled, that it felt like there was a pattern underneath. I needed to understand. I made a careful post on Facebook, keeping it vague. Has anyone dealt with family members selling or giving away belongings without permission during emergencies? Looking for advice on setting boundaries moving forward. Within 3 days, 4 people had privately messaged me. One was someone I barely remembered from college. Another was a former neighbor of my sister's. The third was someone who'd been friends with my sister years ago. The fourth was someone from my sister's church. All 4 had story. The pattern was undeniable. This wasn't an isolated incident of poor judgment during stress. This was how my sister operated when she felt entitled to someone else's property and needed money. The first person who agreed to talk in detail was named Bryn. She'd been my sister's roommate about 6 years ago, though I'd only met her once or twice at family gatherings. We talked on the phone for over an hour on a Wednesday evening. Your sister and I shared an apartment in Portland, Bryn explained. When I went home for 2 weeks after my grandmother's funeral, I came back to find my laptop gone. She'd sold it on Craigslist for $800. The story sounded horrifyingly familiar. What did she say when you confronted her? Bryn laughed bitterly. That she thought I'd abandoned it since I'd been gone so long without saying when I'd be back. She said she'd use the money to cover utilities that I supposedly owed, even though I'd paid my half before leaving. When I pushed back hard, she turned all our mutual friends against me. Made me out to be the unreasonable one for being upset about a misunderstanding. She paused, and I heard her take a sip of something. The thing is, I don't think your sister sees it as stealing. I genuinely believe she's convinced herself that if someone isn't actively using something, and she needs money, then taking it is somehow justified. That observation made too much sense. Did she have money problems back then? Bryn's answer opened another door. Constantly. She'd buy expensive things she couldn't afford, then panic when bills came due. There was something else too. She hesitated. Online gambling. Poker mostly. She'd win occasionally, and that would fuel more betting. But the losses added up really fast. I think she was trying to dig herself out of debt and just kept making it worse. Bryn's information about gambling echoed in my mind for days. I didn't want to believe my sister had that kind of problem, but it explained too much. The desperation, the willingness to steal from family. The $1,800 that she'd needed badly enough to sell my children's dog for it. The other messages I'd received told similar stories. A neighbor who'd lent my sister her lawnmower and never got it back, later finding out my sister had sold it. A church member who'd noticed donation checks going missing when my sister was helping count the collection. Small things, but consistent, always involving money she shouldn't have had access to. Then, 3 weeks after Max came home, the real truth emerged. My mother called on a Thursday evening, her voice tight with barely controlled anger. Not anger at me this time. Anger I could hear was covering fear. Did you know your sister owes nearly $30,000? My mother's voice shook. Credit cards, personal loans, something called a payday loan cycle. We had no idea until creditors started calling our house yesterday looking for her. $30,000. My sister hadn't sold Max because he was inconvenient. She'd sold him because she was drowning financially and desperately grabbing for anything that might keep her afloat for another week. $1,800 that probably went to make minimum payments somewhere, buying her a little more time before the next crisis. When did you find out the full extent of it? I asked my mother. Yesterday afternoon. A collection agency called during dinner. Your father answered and they asked for Beth by name. When your father said she didn't live here, they started asking if we knew how to reach her, if we'd co-signed any loans, increasingly aggressive questions. My mother sounded exhausted. After they hung up, your father called Beth and demanded to know what was going on. She finally admitted it. $30,000 in debt, most of it high-interest credit cards and predatory loans. The timeline clicked into place. Did she know about the debt before she volunteered to watch the kids? My mother's silence told me everything. When she finally spoke, her voice was small. She called me the Sunday before Emma's emergency. Asked if we thought you might need help soon, said she'd noticed Emma hadn't been feeling well at the last family dinner. Like she was positioning herself to be the one to step in. My sister had seen an opportunity and taken it, had volunteered to help not out of family loyalty, but because she'd spotted access to a house full of things she could potentially monetize. The car insurance money you sent her, I said slowly. That wasn't for car insurance, was it? My mother made a sound that might have been a sob. Probably not. Oh God, we helped her do this. We gave her money, and she still sold Max because it wasn't enough. I felt a strange mix of anger and pity. Anger because my sister had stolen from my children during a medical crisis. Pity because she was clearly drowning in problems she couldn't solve and was making increasingly desperate choices. I asked my parents to meet me in person, somewhere neutral where we could talk without interruptions. We chose a family restaurant on Saturday morning, the kind with separate booths that offered privacy. My husband came with me. We needed witnesses for this conversation, and he needed to hear whatever came next. My father looked like he'd aged 5 years in 2 weeks. The stress had carved new lines around his eyes. My mother's hands shook slightly as she held her coffee cup. After we ordered, I pulled out a folder. Everything I'd gathered over the past 3 weeks. The screenshots from Amanda showing my sister's 3 different false stories. The timeline proving she'd planned and executed the sale while I was at the hospital. The stories from Bryn and others about the pattern of taking things without permission when she needed money. The county documents flagging her for attempted theft. I'm not showing you this to punish Beth, I said carefully. I'm showing you this so you understand why I can't trust her around my family anymore. This wasn't an isolated incident of poor judgment. This is who she is when she's desperate. My father read through everything in silence. I watched his expression shift from defensive to troubled to something like grief. When he finished, he looked at my mother with an expression I couldn't fully read. They had one of those wordless married conversations that happen in glances and small gestures. We knew she was struggling, my mother admitted quietly. We didn't know it was this bad, or that she'd do something like this. She touched the printout of Amanda's messages, showing the different lies. She told us you'd given her permission to make household decisions, said you were too stressed and overwhelmed to think clearly. Another lie, another manipulation. My sister had covered her tracks with our parents, just like she'd done with Amanda, telling each person a different version of events. The question is what happens now? My husband said quietly. He'd been silent until that moment, letting me lead the conversation. Because our daughters don't feel safe around Beth, Claire especially, and we need to know if family gatherings are going to be a problem moving forward. My parents exchanged another look. Then my father did something I'd never seen him do in 43 years of being his daughter. He pulled out his phone and called my sister right there at the table, putting it on speaker. She answered on the 3rd ring. Dad, is everything okay? Her voice sounded wary. We're sitting here with your sister and her husband, my father said, his voice harder than I'd ever heard it. We need to talk about Max, and we need the truth this time. All of it. The silence on the other end lasted 5 long seconds. Then, I already explained this. I made a practical decision about a situation nobody else was handling. My father's jaw tightened. Did you sell your niece's therapy dog to pay your debts? Another pause. I rehomed a dog that wasn't being properly cared for while they were at the hospital. If I got compensated for my time and effort finding him a good home, that's fair. My mother closed her eyes like she was in pain. Beth, do you hear yourself? You stole from your sister's family during a medical emergency, and you're justifying it. My sister's voice turned sharp. I didn't steal anything. I made a decision that everyone is now completely overreacting about. The dog is fine. The kids will adjust. If anything, they owe me for the almost 2 weeks I spent managing their chaos while they couldn't be bothered. My father's expression went cold. That's not what the evidence shows. The dog was microchipped and registered to your sister. You sold property that wasn't yours using multiple false stories about international moves and abandonment. That's theft. The county has it documented as theft. The accusations came faster then. My sister blamed our parents for not helping her enough financially. Blamed me for having a stable life when hers was falling apart. Blamed society for making everything so expensive. Blamed her ex-boyfriend from 3 years ago for leaving her with debt. But nowhere in the spiral of words was an apology. Not once did she acknowledge what she'd actually done to Claire and Emma. Not once did she take responsibility for selling their therapy dog for cash while they were traumatized by a hospital stay. You've all turned against me, she finally screamed. I'm the one struggling and nobody cares. Nobody helps. You just judge me and act like I'm some kind of monster for trying to survive. She hung up before anyone could respond. My father sat staring at his phone for a long moment. Then he looked at my mother. She's not coming to Thanksgiving. It wasn't a question. My mother shook her head. No, she's not. They both looked at me then. We're not asking you to forgive her, my father said quietly. We're not even asking you to have a relationship with her. We understand if you need to protect your family. My mother added, voice thick with emotion. We failed you. We should have questioned her story from the beginning. Should have called you at the hospital to confirm. We're so sorry. I reached across the table and took her hand. You didn't know. She lied to all of us. I made the decision that night, sitting at our kitchen table with my husband after the girls were asleep. Wrote it down so I'd see it clearly, make it real and intentional. I'm going no contact with Beth. Effective immediately. No phone calls, no texts, no social media interaction, no contact through intermediaries. This isn't punishment. This is protection for my family. I didn't announce it dramatically. Didn't post about it online or send a formal letter to my sister. Just quietly blocked her number on all our phones, removed her from social media, and informed my parents of the decision the next day via a calm phone call. I'm not asking you to choose sides, I told them. But I am telling you that she won't have access to me or my family moving forward. That includes family gatherings. If she's there, we won't be. My father's voice was heavy but unsurprised. We understand. We don't agree with what she did. We'll respect your boundary. My mother added quietly, we're not inviting her to holidays this year anyway. We need time to process everything too. The relief that followed surprised me. I'd thought setting that boundary would feel like loss or failure. Instead, it felt like safety. Like finally protecting my family the way I should have from the beginning. 2 days later, Claire asked to talk to me privately. Her expression was serious, older than her 9 years should allow. We sat on her bed, Max immediately pressing against both our legs, like he knew this was important. Mom, I don't think I want to see Aunt Beth anymore. Even if you and Grandma and Grandpa make up with her later. I kept my voice neutral. Can you tell me why? Her answer was simple and devastating, because she took Max and lied about it and didn't care that it would hurt us. She knew we loved him and she sold him anyway. If she can do that, I don't feel safe around her. What if next time she takes something else, or lies about us? Emma, only 6 years old, echoed her sister's feelings in simpler terms 3 days later. We were playing with Max in the backyard, watching him chase a tennis ball in the autumn sunshine. She suddenly stopped throwing the ball and said, Aunt Beth was mean to Max. I don't like mean people. I knelt down to her level. What makes you think she was mean to him? Emma petted Max's head thoughtfully. Because Max was really sad when he came back. He kept checking that we were all still here. He still does it sometimes. People who are nice don't make dogs sad. The clarity of children's logic cut right through adult complications. I hadn't prompted these conversations. hadn't bad-mouthed my sister to them or tried to turn them against her. My daughters had simply observed what happened and drawn their own conclusions about trustworthiness and safety. You get to decide who you feel safe around. I told both girls during a family meeting that weekend, and I'll respect whatever you choose. Nobody gets access to you just because they're family. Claire looked relieved. So we don't have to pretend everything's okay at Christmas? I pulled both girls close, Max wedging himself into the group hug like he always did. Never. We don't pretend hurt didn't happen. We learn from it, and we make better choices going forward. 6 months passed. Word spread through our extended family, not because I spread it, but because truth has a way of traveling when people stop actively covering it up. My parents stopped making excuses for my sister. When relatives asked why she wasn't at Thanksgiving or Christmas, my parents gave honest answers. Family members started remembering their own incidents. A borrowed item never returned. Money lent and never repaid. The pattern became visible when people stopped dismissing the individual incidents. One Saturday morning, 6 months after everything happened, I found Max sleeping between my daughter's beds exactly where he used to sleep. Claire was reading while absently running her fingers through his fur. Emma was building an elaborate block castle, occasionally explaining the architecture to Max, who listened with patient attention. The scene looked perfectly ordinary. Peaceful in a way that felt earned rather than given. Max's blue anxiety vest hung on Claire's doorknob, ready when she needed it, but not required every moment. He'd settled back into our family like he'd never left, though occasionally he'd do that checking behavior Emma had noticed. Looking around rooms to count us, watching the door when someone left, relaxing only when they returned. I didn't win by destroying my sister's life. I won by protecting what mattered most. My children, my family, the trust that makes a home feel safe. Real victory isn't viral worthy or dramatic. It's your kid laughing again, your therapy dog sleeping peacefully where he belongs, your family understanding that boundaries aren't walls built from anger, they're foundations built from wisdom. Trust is earned through consistent, honest action over time. Access is not owed simply because you share DNA. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is protect the people you love from people who've proven they don't understand what love actually requires.